Hi and welcome to another story, and today we have part 6 of The Illustrated Mum by Jacqueline Wilson, continuing from Frog. I ran the bath with hot water, but she wouldn't get in. I tried scrubbing at her with a flannel, but she started screaming. I hung on her ghostly arm and tried to pull her to bed, but she stood rigidly, her white feet tensed on the cold lino tiles, as if they'd taken root. I was scared to leave her by herself, as I had no idea what she'd do next. I eventually emptied the bath, dried it with her towel, and then curled up inside it with my head on my own towel. It was like being in an iron cradle, and I didn't see how I could ever sleep, with my mad mother palely luminous in the dark. I dozed off when it was starting to get light, and then woke with a start, banging my head against the tap. She was still there, swaying slightly, her eyes closed. Marigold? She opened her eyes. They looked glazed. Marigold, please. I struggled out of the bath and took hold of her white shoulders. Are you asleep? Her eyes blinked, but she didn't focus on me. Let's get it all off you now, I said. It looked much worse in the daylight. Even her eyelashes were painted like snowy mascara, and there were swirls of it inside the delicate skin of her ear. Oh, Marigold, what have you done? It's gone all over. What if it makes you go blind or deaf? It's dangerous. Oh, please, let's get it off you quick. I was shaking, wondering how I could have been so stupid just to leave her like that half the night. It had been almost like a dream, but now it was horribly real. I was so scared I had to use the loo right in front of her because my whole insides had turned to water. She didn't seem to notice. As soon as I could run the bath again, she was still so stiff I couldn't make her step inside. I scrubbed at her where she stood, but it was useless. I only got rid of a few flakes of paint. I scrabbled desperately in the cupboard under the sink and found an old bottle of turpentine. I poured some on the cloth and started scrubbing at her foot. She flinched at each stroke. The white still wouldn't come off properly, but where some of it was streaking her own skin was burning scarlet. I didn't know if it was because of the turpentine. I could be hurting her even more. I don't know what to do, I said. Tell me what to do, Marigold, please, please. Her lips moved. It moved as if she was whispering, but no sound came out. Does it hurt? Look, I'll wash the turpentine off. I'm so scared it's burning you. I washed her foot over and over again until she was standing in a large puddle. The paint was still an ugly white smear, the skin very red underneath apart from a dark patch by her toe. I started, terrified it was something awful like gangrene, but then I saw a tiny webbed hand, and I remembered the little green frog tattooed between her big toe. She quivered when I touched it. Her lips moved again. What? I can't hear you. Can you try louder? I straightened up and stood on tiptoe, trying to get her up to her level. I stared at her mouth, but it didn't make any recognizable shapes of words. I looked at her eyes. I saw how frightened she was, too. I'm going to get help, I said. You come and lie down in bed. She still wouldn't move, so I wrapped her up in a towel. And then I kissed her poor, crazy white face and ran out of the room. Out of the flat, down the stairs. Not Mrs. Luft, no. Out the front door, down the road, to the corner in the shops. Any of the shopkeepers. No, all the way to school. And Oliver. Maybe Mr. Harrison? No. What am I going to do? Oh, Star, why aren't you here? You mean, hateful pig. I need you so. I don't know what to do. I knew what to do. I knew it was the only thing to do, but I felt like I was betraying Marigold as I stood in the phone box and dialed the 3 numbers. Emergency. Yes, it is an emergency, I said. I think I need an ambulance. I was connected to someone else who started asking me questions. This person's covered in paint, I said. It won't come off. No, it's not my little brother or sister, it's my mum. No, she can't come in herself. She can't move. She's sort of stuck, and she won't speak to me anymore. I'm scared she maybe can't hear because the paint's in her ears and everywhere. We live at Flat B, 35 Beacon Road. Please, will you come? I put the phone down and then raced back home. I pounded up the stairs and through the door. Marigold was in the bathroom, standing like a marble statue. I threw myself at her, nearly toppling us both onto the floor. Oh, Marigold, quick, we have to get you dressed. They're coming. I'm sorry, I know you'll be so mad at me, but the paint's all over you, and it's got to be cleaned off. Look at your poor eyes, your poor ears. But once they've done that, it'll be all over, and you can come back and I'll look after you. We'll be okay, you and me, but you just have to go get the paint off because, well, please don't be cross with me. I know you hate hospitals. As soon as I said the word, she started quivering. She didn't say anything. She didn't push me away. She didn't try to get dressed. She just shook all over. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I sobbed. I ran to get clothes for her, but it was going to be too much of a struggle to get her arms and legs in and out of things, so I ended up manoeuvring her trembly arms into her dressing gown and tying it tight around her painted body. I knew she wouldn't be able to manage her own high heels, so I got an old pair of trainers of Stars. They were a size too small, but I managed to wedge Marigold's smeared white feet into them. Then, before I had time to make any kind of proper plan, there was a knock at the front door. I'll have to go let them in. We don't want Mrs. Luft gawping, I said. Oh, Marigold, don't shake. It will be all right, I swear it will. They'll just get the paint off, and then you can come back home. Marigold looked into my eyes. I felt as if I'd stabbed her through the heart. I had to, I said, and then I ran to the door. There were 2 ambulance people, a man and a woman. She's upstairs, I whispered. But as they came into the hallway, Mrs. Luft opened her door and peered out, curlers clamped to her head like little metal caterpillars. Her mouth opened when she saw the uniform. Oh, my lord, what's that crazy woman done now? She asked, the air in front of her. The ambulance people took no notice. As we went up our flight of stairs, the woman patted me on the shoulder. Don't worry, Poppet, she said cheerily. She didn't start when she saw my poor mad mother covered in paint. Right, dear, we'll soon get you cleaned up. You come with us. Would you like to walk? We can carry you in our chair if you'd sooner. Marigold's eyes swiveled, but she said nothing. The woman put her hand gently on her elbow. She tried to urge Marigold forward. Nothing happened. Come on now. We don't want to have to haul you about, my love, especially not in front of your little girl. The ambulance lady looked at me. What about you, chum? Is there anyone to look after you? I thought quickly. If I said no, then she'd get in touch with the social services, and I'd be put in a home. Oh, yes, I said. Yes, there's someone to look after me. I didn't sound terribly convincing. The ambulance people exchanged glances. My dad, I said. They looked relieved. Where's Dad now? The woman persisted. Oh, he's at work. On his shift. He'll be home any minute, I said, the lying getting easier. I looked at Marigold. I wasn't sure she was taking in what I was saying. She was still shaking badly. Her face twitched when I reached up to kiss her. I love you, I whispered. I wanted her to say it back. I wanted her to put her painted arms around me and hug me tight. I wanted her to step out of her sickness and tell them that I'd never so much as set eyes on my father. I wanted her to tell them that she couldn't leave me all on my own. Her green eyes looked at me, but she didn't say a word. The ambulance people gave up trying to coax her and strapped her into the chair. Her dressing gown fell apart so that her white breasts shone in full view. Let's get you decent, dear, said the ambulance lady, tucking the dressing gown over her and up around her chin. It was as if Marigold had shrunk into babyhood. They carried her out of the room, down the stairs, along the hall. I followed them to the front door. Mrs. Luft was still lurking. When she saw the state of Marigold, she hissed with excitement. Can the little girl stay with you till Dad gets back? Said the ambulance woman. Mrs. Luft made a little chew-swallow murmur, as if she was snacking on her own false teeth. The ambulance people took this for a yes. They lifted Marigold out of the doorway. When she saw the white ambulance, her face screwed up. Tears ran down her cheeks. Her eyes stared at me as they put her in the back. I'm sorry, I said. It was such a silly small word for what I felt. They shut her inside. The ambulance man gave me the thumbs up sign. Don't worry, kid. It'll be all right. We'll soon get Mum sorted out, he said. He got into the ambulance and drove off. You won't get that one sorted out. Not in a month of Sundays, Mrs. Luft snorted. You shut up, you nasty, mean old moo. Well, she drew herself up, her nostrils pinched white, as if I was a bad smell. There's gratitude, when I've agreed to keep my eye on you until someone comes to look after you. I don't need looking after. I can look after myself, I said fiercely. Oh, yes, little Miss Spitfire, very funny. How old are you then, 10? Don't be so silly. We'd better phone the welfare people. No, don't, I swallowed. Please don't. Look, my mum will be back by the time I get home from my school. And anyway, there's my dad. Yeah, my dad. I don't know. There's no sign of this dad of yours all the time you've been living here. Lots of uncles, of course, flitting in and out, but the less said about that, the better. I suppose your dad is the one that fancies himself with the pretty boy hair and silly clothes. I saw you all. Is he the one? I nodded, wishing Mickey really was my dad. Then he'd be looking after me and telling me what to do about Marigold. I had to get away from Mrs. Luft before I started crying again. I'm going to school, I said quickly. I've got to go. I'm ever so late. I'll get into trouble. I did get into trouble too. Miss Hill was halfway through the first lesson when I got there. For goodness sake, Dolphin, why are you so late? I stood still, wondering what I could possibly say. This really isn't good enough. Did you oversleep? This seemed the best option, so I nodded. Then you must go to bed earlier. What time did you go to bed last night? I thought about it. I couldn't remember exactly. Half the night I wasn't even in bed. I was curled up in the bath trying to keep a watch over Marigold. I could see a pale ghost of her even now in the classroom. I could feel my eyes watering. I sniffed and wiped my nose with the back of my hand. Really? Don't you have a tissue? Look at the state of you. You look as if you tumbled straight out of bed. You haven't even brushed your hair or washed your face, have you? Yvonne and Kaylee started sniggering as she got stuck into me. I held my face tight to stop myself crying. I fingered my witchy black velvet, trying to summon up evil powers, but I couldn't make anything work. Miss Hill went on, telling me it just wasn't good enough. I was a dirty, lazy girl without any sense of pride, and if I didn't wipe that insolent smirk off my face, she'd send me straight to the head teacher. I swiveled my head to try to change my expression. I saw a blurry view of the class, lots of them grinning and giggling, but then I saw a flash of glass. I blinked and saw Oliver clearly, his face white and tense, his eyes big behind his specs. He looked so sorry for me that I couldn't bear it. I suddenly started howling. Really, Dolphin, there's no need for tears, said Miss Hill. She was still scornful, but she sounded a bit scared too, as if she realised she'd gone too far. Stop that silly crying now. I couldn't stop. I snorted and sobbed, my nose running. Here. I felt a hanky being pressed into my hand. I opened my teary eyes. It was Oliver. Sit down, Oliver and you, Dolphin, shall we get on with our work, everybody? I squeezed Oliver's hand and then went to sit down, mopping my face. Kaylee and Yvonne whispered all sorts of stuff about me, being a baby and dirty and snotty. Snottle bottle nose, Kaylee said, and they both burst out laughing. That's enough, Yvonne and Kaylee. Settle down at once, said Miss Hill. I didn't even turn around to stick my tongue out at them, to show I was glad they'd got into trouble. I couldn't be bothered with any of this school stuff anymore. I just kept thinking of Marigold and wondering what they were doing to her. Why hadn't I gone with her to the hospital? At morning break, I shot off quickly, not wanting to be with anyone, not even Oliver. But he caught up with me and cornered me. I didn't think anyone could make you cry, he said. Yes, well, they can't, especially not hateful bum-face Hill. I was crying about something else, okay? I said, clenching my fists. What else? Said Oliver. Don't get mad at me, Dolphin. I'm your friend. I know, I'm sorry. It's just... Oh, Owly, I don't know what to do. Oliver! Sorry, I wasn't thinking. It's my mum. I thought it was. I phoned the ambulance to come and get her. I had to because of all the paint in her ears and eyes and everywhere. But now she'll never forgive me. What? Said Oliver, blinking behind his glasses. I explained. I feel so terrible. She hates hospitals. But you had to. You did the right thing, Dolphin, honestly. Do you think I should bunk off school and go to the hospital now, to be with her? Maybe they wouldn't let you see her, if they're scrubbing off all the paint. Wait a bit. Let me think. Here, have you still got my hanky? I think you need to use it again. Oh, Oliver. I hung on to him because there was no one else. Yuck! Look, Bottlenose and Owly are snogging again. Yvonne and Kaylee and a whole little gang of girls were fast approaching. You shut up, you stupid piddle pants, I yelled. If you say one more thing, I'll smash your stupid teeth in, and then no one will ever want to snog you. I rounded on them so determinedly that they scattered. You are fierce, Dolphin, said Oliver. I'm glad you're on my side. I'm glad you're on mine, I said. You'll help me sort it out. Sort out what to do? Well, I'll try. You've got the mega wizzo brain power, right? Right, said Oliver. OK, leave it to me. The rest of the morning went so slowly it seemed like it was already the summer holidays when the bell rang for dinner time. I looked at Oliver expectantly. We'll phone the hospital, he said. It didn't seem much of a solution to all the black worries buzzing in my head, but it seemed like a good starting point. I didn't have any money, but Oliver had a good supply of 10 and 20 pences. I needed most of them too, because the hospital switchboard kept me waiting ages while they looked up Marigold's name and tried to track her down. They put me through to casualty, and they checked and eventually said she wasn't there anymore. So, she's home already, I said. I felt the tight band around me loosen, so that my heart gave a happy thump. No, my heart clamped. Where is she then? She's been admitted to Tennyson. Tennyson? I'll put you through. So, I waited again, wondering what had gone wrong now. Maybe Tennyson was a special ear, nose and throat ward, and they were checking in case the paint had done any damage. Or maybe Tennyson was the eye ward, and they were using special eye baths to get the paint off her lashes. Maybe. Maybe I knew perfectly well what sort of ward it was. Tennyson Psychiatric Ward, how can I help you? I pressed the phone hard against my ear. I didn't want Oliver to know. I think there's this lady, she's called Marigold. Marigold Westwood. She might be having treatment? Ah, yes. We admitted Miss Westwood in the ward this morning. And will she be better soon? I think it might take a while. Who's speaking, please? Are you Miss Westwood's little girl? No, I'm grown up. I just sound young, I said, trying to deepen my voice. I turned my back on Oliver because he was putting me off. Well, we need to speak to an adult family member about Miss Westwood, the voice said gently. I'm adult and family, and I'm her sister. Is she going to be able to come home tonight? I can look after her and give her any medicine she needs, but she really hates it in hospital, you see. It's actually bad for her to be in hospital, so if you've got all the paint off, can't she come home now? I'm afraid not, dear. Miss Westwood is really quite seriously ill at the moment. What has she got? Is it poisoning from the paint? No. I really don't think I should discuss this on the phone. Perhaps you could come down and have a chat with us. Please, can't you just tell me when she'll be home? Tomorrow? The day after? When? It's impossible to say. We can't make any predictions, but I shouldn't imagine it will be too long. A matter of weeks. Weeks! I think you are very young, dear. Where are you ringing from? Do you have an adult with you? Listen, dear. I didn't dare listen any more. I slammed the phone down. I shut my eyes to try to blot everything out. It was very silent in the corridor because everyone else was at dinner. I could just hear Oliver breathing heavily beside me. Weeks, he whispered. Yes, I opened my eyes. It was no use trying to kid him. She's in the nutty ward. I expect she's locked up. Oh, Owlie, what am I going to do? He didn't blink at the unintentional Owlie. We'll think of something, he said, trying to sound reassuring. I can't stay at home by myself for weeks. Mrs. Luft will phone the welfare, and I haven't got any money. I won't be able to go down the post office for the gyro because it's Marigold who has to collect it. Kids aren't allowed. I know, because Star tried once. I started shaking when I said Star's name. Can't you go and live with Star and her dad, said Oliver. You said she asked you to come too. But they don't really want me. And anyway, I don't know where they are. She's meant to be sending me a new phone. I could ask her then. She might come back if she believes me. Oh, I wish she was here. I'm here, said Oliver, patting my arm nervously as if he was trying to make friends with a snappy little dog. I looked at him. Oh, Oliver, could I come and live with you and your mum? Oliver's eyes widened. Not for good, just for a few days until I can get in touch with Star. Oh, please, Oliver, say yes. I don't... I've had you to tea at my house, and you can stay over any time you want, so can't I come to your house? Maybe just for tonight. I wish you could, Dolphin, said Oliver, but it's my mum. She doesn't want anyone to come round. She just wants it to be her and me. I asked her if I could have you for tea, and she just said not at the moment. She wasn't up to it. She's gone a bit funny since my dad left. Look, my mum's seriously bananas. I'm used to mums being odd. I won't laugh or anything. I'll be ever so good. I'll take my own sleeping bag so I won't even need a bed. Please, Oliver. Well, I'll phone and ask, but I don't think she'll say yes. Oliver phoned. I could hear his mum's startled tone. Oliver, darling. Oh, my goodness. What's the matter? Why are you phoning? What's happened? Have you hurt yourself? She asked dozens of questions without letting him answer. He had to blurt it out while she was saying stuff to herself, so she didn't even hear first time round. And then he had to repeat it. Mum, please, can my friend Dolphin, I went to tea at her place. Well, can she come to tea tonight, please? And to stay over, I mouthed. But Oliver's mum wouldn't even consider tea. It's out of the question, darling. You know it is, especially today. I've got another migraine. I'll have to make a doctor's appointment. I just can't go on like this. But, Mum, Dolphin needs to stay somewhere tonight. Please, can't she come? Oliver, what on earth's got into you? I've told you what I think about this weird little girl and her bizarre family. Why you had to get mixed up with her, I can't imagine. Oliver wriggled, his eyes swerving past me. He tried again several times, but it was obvious it was pointless. There was a brief silence after he put the phone down. I'm afraid Mum says you can't come, he said, eventually in a tiny voice. I know. I heard. It's all right. It's not all right, said Oliver. Oh, Dolphin, look, maybe we should tell a teacher. What? I said. Please, tell Miss Hill. No, not her. What about Mr. Harrison? He's nice. He'd help. He's nice, yes, but how could he help? He's not going to say, OK, Dolphin, come and kip down at my house for a few weeks until your mum's better. No, but maybe he'd know what to do. Yeah, I know what he'd do. Call the social. And I'd be shoved into a home. Well, they'd look after you OK, wouldn't they? And it might even be fun. You could be fostered for a bit. You've been watching too much Home and Away. Look, my mum was in and out of homes and foster places all her life. She said it was the absolute pits. Some of the things she's told Star and me. Well, you'd never believe it, Oliver. But it was just for a week or two. But it wouldn't be, would it? If they've got my mum locked up in the nutty ward, they're going to say she's an unfit mother. The social will do this investigation, see, and if they find out that Marigold often goes a bit weird and likes to go out for a drink or two or three, and she sometimes has boyfriends, and there's all the credit card stuff she pulls too, they'll never let me go back and live with her, ever. And I need to be with her, Oliver. She's my mum. Oliver blinked at me. His eyes went all wavery, the way they do when he's thinking hard. I could almost hear his brain going tick, tick, tick inside his head. And then he started, as if an alarm had suddenly gone off. I know. It's obvious. Your dad. What? Your dad. Star's with her dad. Can't you get in touch with yours? I told you I haven't got a dad. You must have had one once. Look, my mum had this quick thing. She hardly knew him. He can't count as a dad. So she didn't even know him. She knew his name, which is why she went out with him. He was called Mickey too. She went out with him just because he was called Mickey, Oliver repeated. Yes, so? You know she's weird. That's all you know about your dad. His name's Mickey. So I can't exactly track him down, can I? Would all the Mickeys in the world who might have had a little fling 11 years ago please step forward? I think not. Your mum has never told you anything else about him? No, not really. Didn't you ever ask? He is your dad. He's not, I keep telling you. Not like Star's dad. Marigold and Mickey. That Mickey, they were crazy about each other. It was mad, passionate love. They were together ages. I faltered, suddenly remembering that Mickey said it had only been a few weeks. So how long had Marigold spent with my Mickey? Half an hour? Where did they meet? I don't know. Yes, I do. I think. This Mickey's a good swimmer because I'm not. I hate swimming, and Marigold once said that was funny because this other Mickey was a brilliant swimmer. I think he even taught swimming. Did he teach your mum? I don't know. I tried to remember what Marigold had said. It was ages ago when I was first taken swimming by the school. The school before this one. I was scared of putting my head under the water, and the other kids laughed at me, and then one of the boys ducked me. And, Marigold was very kind when I told her and said she's always been scared of swimming too, but she'd learnt as an adult, and now she could swim all sorts of funny strokes, and maybe one day I'd be a good swimmer too. Because my Mickey had been. Maybe he was the guy who taught her, I said. So maybe he still teaches swimming. Hey, we could go to the leisure pool and find out. No, we couldn't. It wasn't this pool. We didn't live around here. I tried to work it out. We lived in so many different places. I can't remember. Anyway, what does it matter? We'll track him down, you'll see. Think, Dolphin. How can I think my way back before I was born? I knew we lived somewhere near London when I was born, south of the river, but I wasn't sure where. Oliver started suggesting names. Well, he was into train spotting, typical, and chanted his way through all the suburban stations from Waterloo. Some sounded familiar, some didn't. It's hopeless, Owly. Oliver! No, it isn't. We could try them all. See if there's a Mickey working at their swimming pools. What? Go to all those places? Phone. Directory inquiries will give us all the numbers. And then what, I said. Suppose we did find him. What's he going to do then? Well, he's your dad. You said Star's dad was over the moon when he met her. He was desperate to look after her. Yes, because she's Star. Who's going to want to look after me? And anyway, like I said, he didn't even know Marigold properly. He's probably forgotten all about her. You couldn't possibly forget your mum, even if you met her for 5 minutes, said Oliver. I suppose that made some kind of sense. I wondered if this idea of his made sense too. Deep, deep down, I'd always had this dream that one day I'd meet my dad, my Mickey, and he'd be almost as good as the real first Mickey, and he'd love me because I was his little girl, his dolphin. It was such a deeply embarrassing dream that I hardly ever dared thinking about it. I could feel my face going red. I knew it was sad and pathetic. Star had always sneered at the idea of either of us meeting our dads. That was why it was so unfair when she met her dad, and he was like her prince in a fairy tale, and she was his long-lost princess. My dad wouldn't be like that. He'd be a frog who never turned into a prince even after 100 kisses. No, I was the frog child, the sad, ugly one no dad could ever want. We wouldn't ever find him. It's a chance in a million, and if we did, he wouldn't want me anyway. Let's try, Oliver persisted. He dialed 192, started asking for swimming pool numbers, lots and lots of them. He didn't have any spare paper, so he wrote them all the way up his arm. And then, when he had a full sleeve of blotchy blue figures, he went to the school secretary and got her to change the secret £5 note in case of emergency he kept in a little purse in his pocket in 10 and 20 pieces. Right, here goes, said Oliver, squinting at his arm and then dialing the first number. What are you going to say? Aren't you going to say it? Said Oliver. I don't know how to put it. I can't just say, hello, are you Mickey? Great, well, guess what? I'm your long-lost daughter. I don't see why not, said Oliver, but he agreed to do the talking. He did a lot of talking. We got through the pile of silver at an alarming rate because there were so many stupid pre-recorded messages about swimming times. You had to hang on for ages before they put you through to the main office. We were down to the last few coins when Oliver tensed and grabbed my arm with his sweaty hand. But it was a Nicky, not a Mickey, and it turned out she was a girl. This is crazy. We've just wasted all your emergency money mucking on about like this, I said. This is an emergency, said Oliver. One more. He dialed again. He listened to all the recorded messages while the minutes ticked away. I started biting a hangnail, tearing at it with my teeth until a long shred of skin ripped off and I started bleeding. Don't, Dolphin, said Oliver primly. I licked the blood. Yuck, you vampire. I pulled back my lip to make vampire teeth and pretended to bite his neck. And then the voice started speaking. A man. New Barnes Leisure Pool. How can I help you? Oh, hello. Look, this sounds a silly question, but can you tell me if there's anyone called Mickey working as an instructor at your pool? No Mickeys, said the voice. See, I mouthed at Oliver. None at all, Oliver persisted. Well, I'm Michael. I did get called Mickey once, but that was ages ago. Oh gosh, said Oliver. Look, do you mind my asking how long have you worked at the pool? That's easy. 15 years ever since it happened. Well, since it opened. Oh gosh, Oliver squeaked. And do you ever remember meeting a lady, a very pretty lady with red hair and lots of tattoos? You mean Marigold? Scream. Oliver held the phone out to me. I backed away. It's him, Oliver hissed. I knew it was him. I took the phone from Oliver and held it to my ear. I heard his voice properly for myself. It sounded so close it tickled. I slammed the phone back down, cutting me off. Oliver's mouth hung open. No, it was him. I know it was. He said the name Marigold. I know. So he must be your dad. Maybe. So why didn't you speak to him? I don't know. I didn't want to. Oh, shut up, Owlie. Oliver, don't tell me to shut up. I'm trying to help. Oliver's lip trembled. I'm sorry. I don't understand. We tracked him down. Look, I just didn't want to say anything. I didn't think in a million years we'd ever find him. Well, maybe we haven't. My mum isn't the only Marigold in the world. Oh, come on, Dolphin. And anyway, so what if he did know her? It doesn't prove he's my dad. Maybe Marigold was just making it up about him. She makes up all sorts of stuff. I wonder what they're doing to her. Look, Dolphin, you've got to think about you for a bit. If you don't want to see your dad, I've no idea if he is my dad. All right, but if you don't get in touch with him, then what are you going to do? He's going to look after you. Who is? I shall look after myself, I said. If you could maybe lend me a little bit of cash, because I don't think we've got much food in, then I'll be fine. I'll stomp about in heavy shoes so that Mrs. Luff thinks I've got someone with me. I'll be okay for a few days, and then maybe Marigold will be able to get out of hospital. I tried to make it sound as simple and ordinary and everyday as I could, but my voice was getting higher and higher as I thought of staying in the flat all by myself, with Mrs. Luff lurking underneath me and the ghost of Mr. Rowling slithering up above. I stopped. Oliver was looking at me sadly. I couldn't even kid him. Haven't you got a granny or auntie or anyone? No, well, maybe I have, but Marigold was taken into care, see, so she didn't see her family after that. She's just my family, her and Star. And your dad, and I could phone him again, Dolphin. No, I can't. You can't just blurt out stuff on the phone. Then see him. See him when? We could go there on the train. We haven't got any money. Aha! Oliver delved inside his shoe and came up with another £5 note, tightly folded and a little smelly. This is my extra emergency money in case I lose my emergency money. You're nuts. No, I'm not. Come on, let's go. Now. You mean bunk off school? Yes, said Oliver. Let's. Come on. I was so startled that goody-goody wimpy little brainbox Oliver was prepared to do such a momentous thing on my behalf that I found myself nodding. Right. Okay. So we walked straight out of school. No one said a word as we walked down the corridor, out the entrance, across the playground and out the gate. It was so simple. I wondered why I'd never done it before. Oliver's walk was a bit wobbly, but he grinned at me through gritted teeth. This feels so peculiar, I said. I can't believe we're really doing this. It's like a dream. Maybe it is. Shall I pinch you? Oliver gave me a delicate pinch on the back of my hand. Did you feel it? Barely. You're not a very vicious pincher, Oliver. Not like Ronnie Churley. He's horrible at pinching. Yeah, and his Chinese burns. He kicked me once in the boys' toilets, right in the stomach. I cried and he called me a baby. He's a baby, though, trotting to school with his mum. I go to school with my mum. Oh, I've just thought. She'll be coming to meet me at school at 3:30. Oh, well. Look, you can go back. No, I'm coming with you. I can maybe get back in time, or I'll phone her so she doesn't worry. Well, she will worry, but it can't be helped. She'll say it's that weird little girl's influence. Oh, you heard. Yep, never mind. Everyone thinks I'm weird. I think you're weird, but I like it. You're actually pretty weird yourself, Oliver. Hey, we're the wondrous weirdos, right? Yes. Okay, Dolphin. What if someone stops us and asks us why we're not in school? Easy. We're going to the dentist's. What about at the station? They won't ask. Why would they? Well, because we haven't got a grown-up with us. It does feel funny. Oliver swung his arms to show how odd it felt. I'm often out without an adult. I'm not. In fact, don't laugh, but this is the very first time. Now, that is weird. Well, don't worry. I'll look after you. It was Oliver, however, who worked out the train journey because it wasn't as simple as I'd thought. We had to change at Wimbledon, as I'd have jumped on the wrong train if Oliver hadn't hung on to me. He bought us 2 Mars bars, 2 packets of crisps and 2 cans of Coke, which used up every last penny of his emergency money. I was starting to feel a bit sick when we got to New Barnes. I'm not sure Mars bars really go with crisps, I said, especially not with Coke on top. I burped miserably. You'll be all right in a minute, said Oliver. He asked a lady the way to the leisure pool. She said it wasn't far and we couldn't miss it. We set off, walking in the direction she sent us. We walked for quite a bit, not saying much. It seemed far. It looked like we had missed it. I didn't mind. Oliver asked again, and then we doubled back on ourselves and saw a big modern white building at the back of the street. That looks like it, said Oliver. I said nothing. You're ever so quiet, said Oliver. I feel sick, I told you. It's probably because you're scared about meeting your dad. No, it's not, I said, irritated. Stop being such a know-all. You don't know anything. Yes, I do, said Oliver softly, scaredy cat. But he laced his bony little fingers through mine as he said it. I glared at him, but I gripped his hand hard. I hung on tight as we got nearer and nearer the leisure pool. The smell of the chlorine was so strong as we went through the entrance that I wondered if I really was going to throw up. Take a deep breath, Oliver advised. I stood still and gasped like I was making a dirty phone call. The woman at the reception desk eyed us up and down. Are you both over 10? Of course we are, said Oliver, but we don't actually want to go for a swim. Well, the cafe's over there. No, we don't want the cafe either. Well, if it's the toilets, you're not allowed to use them if you're not going to use the leisure centre premises. But your friend looks a bit dodgy, so if she needs to dash into the ladies, I'll turn a blind eye. It's kind of you, but she doesn't need the toilet, said Oliver. I do, I said truthfully. I did have to make a dash for it. When I returned, white and trembling, the lady and Oliver looked shocked. You look awful, said Oliver. Perhaps you'd better come into the office and sit down, said the lady. I'll ring your mother. You can't, I said, and I started crying. There was a lot of fussing after that. I was led into the office, Oliver holding my hand again, which was kind of him, though it meant I couldn't wipe my nose properly. A thin man with big black glasses in a grey tracksuit shook his head at me. Dear, oh dear, you look a bit woebegone, he said. What's up? She's not well at all. Can I leave the kids with you a minute? There's a queue at the desk. Thanks, Michael. I stared at him. Michael. My dad. I'd never had any idea what he looked like. Marigold had always described him as nothing special, which wasn't helpful. Then I'd rearranged my ideas over the last couple of hours and pictured him as a brawny bronze hunk in lycra shorts. This Michael was a shock. You're Michael, said Oliver. He stopped looking at me. He stared at Oliver. His face went white. You're the kid who phoned, he said. Oliver nodded. You asked if I remembered Marigold. He said it oddly as if it was a magic name, and saying it out loud would make all his wishes come true. What's your name, son? He whispered. Oliver, said Oliver. Michael bent down and clasped Oliver gently by his narrow shoulders. I knew it, said Michael. I knew it as soon as I heard your voice. And now look at you. A real chip off the old block. Oh, Oliver, I'm your dad, aren't I? He pulled Oliver closer to hug him. No, said Oliver, wriggling out of his grasp. I'm sorry, said Michael, setting him free at once. I know I can't rush things. This is probably very difficult for you. But ever since Marigold left, I've been haunted by the thought of you. No, not me, Oliver said. I've got my own dad. I'm just her friend. It's her. He took me by the wrist and yanked me upright. I was still feeling so weak I went dizzy. Oliver and Michael started multiplying and spinning around me. Sit down and put your head between your legs, said Michael. Put my head where? I mumbled. To stop you fainting. He took hold of me by the elbows and sat me back down. He gently pressed my head down until my knees nudged my ears. There, he said, as the black whirling slowed down. Okay, you can try putting your head up now. Up and down, up and down. I feel like a yo-yo, I said shakily. Now, said Michael, sitting on the arm of my chair, are you telling me you're Marigold's baby? I'm not a baby, I'm nearly 11. And then I realised what he meant. How did you know she was having a baby? It was why she left. I was so thrilled, but she didn't know if she could cope. Star was only little. Marigold didn't want... He stopped suddenly. I stared at him, rubbing my eyes, trying to get him properly in focus. You mean, you and Marigold, you lived together for a bit? 11 months. I must have looked astonished. I loved her so much, said Michael. I knew she didn't really care about me. She wanted that Mickey, but he didn't want her. She's the same now, I said. Does she know you're here? He looked painfully eager. She's not waiting outside, is she? No, she's in hospital. What's wrong with her? She's not very well, sort of mentally. Ah, and Star's with Mickey now. Is she? How did she come about that? He left long before she was born. Well, he came back, and he's taken Star. So Star's got her dad, and you came looking for your dad. Me. I felt myself going bright red. Michael had gone through an overly emotional scene with Oliver. It would seem so daft if he repeated it with me. The weird thing was that Michael and Oliver really did look like they were related. Michael and I didn't look at all alike. He was dark, I was mousy. He had vague brown eyes, mine were sharp green. He had pink cheeks, and I was always white unless I was blushing. Maybe you're not my dad, I said. We don't look like each other. You look like Marigold. I stared at him. My dad was pretty stupid. Marigold's beautiful, I said. I'm ugly. No, you're not. You're very like her. Your hair, your skin, your eyes. Marigold's got red hair, said Oliver. It was pale brown when she was with me, said Michael. He smiled at me, his eyes big and blinking behind his black glasses. Do you swim wearing your glasses? I asked. I have prescription goggles, he said, though I look a little bit like a frog in them. I thought, Marigold has a frog tattoo. Between her toes, I know. I held her hand when she had it done. I have to hold her hand too. Has she got a lot more now? She's practically covered up, said Oliver. She looks amazing, like a comic. I'd give anything to have a mum who looks like that. Oh, my mum. Do you think I could possibly make a quick phone call? Of course. While Oliver was dialing and then spinning his mum some long, involved story, Michael and I looked at each other. Then we looked away, and then we looked at each other again. I don't know your name, he said suddenly. It's Dolphin. Dolphin, he said slowly, trying it out. It's a stupid name. No, it's not. The kids call me Bottlenose at school. Well, they're stupid. Dolphins are beautiful animals anyway. Fish. No, they're mammals. Highly intelligent and amazing in the water. Do you like swimming, Dolphin? I can't. You can't swim. He'd taken on board a bogus son and a probable daughter without turning a hair, but now he sounded genuinely astonished. I don't believe it. Didn't Marigold teach you? I taught her. We don't ever go swimming. I did with the school, but it was mostly just messing about. I'll teach you, said Michael. I swallowed. The swirling feeling was starting up again. So can I come and stay with you? Just for a bit, till Marigold gets better. Michael swallowed too. His Adam's apple bobbed about in his throat. Well, yes, of course, but there's all sorts of things that will have to be sorted out first. It was simple when it came to Mickey and Star. It was very, very, very complicated with Michael and me. We've got to do things properly, Dolphin. Properly meant he had to take us back to school, go to the hospital, see a social worker there, see another special children's social worker, see the entire social services to sort out what was going to be done. No, I wailed. No, please don't. Not the social. We've got to do things the right way. I can't just take you out of the blue. We're strangers, even if we are father and daughter. He said the words stiltedly, going a bit pink. Mickey just took Star. Yes, that figures. But Mickey seems to have a habit of rushing in and then rushing off, leaving all kinds of havoc behind him. I want to do this my way. But it's not my way. I'm not seeing any social workers. They'll just take me into care and they don't care. They smack you and they tell you off, and if you wet the bed, they put the sheet over your head. Do you wet the bed, Dolphin? Oliver asked with interest. No, but that's what it's like in homes, Marigold said, and she should know. She's been in heaps. But that was a while ago. Things have changed, and anyway, you're not going to end up in a home. You can stay with me if the social workers think it's suitable, and I'll have to discuss it with my family too, of course. The word family hit me like a pile of bricks. Family? Yes, I've got a wife, Meg. 2 daughters, Grace and Alice. The words struck me on the head. Wife, bang. Daughters, bang, bang. That was why he was so thrilled when he thought Oliver was his son. He didn't need another daughter. It's okay, I said. It was a mad idea coming here, not my idea. We don't need you to take us back. We've got return tickets, haven't we, Oliver? Well, yes, said Oliver. And actually, I'd sooner we didn't go back to school because I've just told my mum this long story about a school trip to a leisure centre. It wasn't exactly a lie. And how the coach would drop me off right at the end of our street, but they couldn't say the exact time, and she only half seemed to believe me, and she gets very upset. You know what she's like, Dolphin. Oliver rambled on about his mum. I didn't take much of it in. Michael wasn't listening either. He was fumbling through a little plastic wallet. Here, he said, and he showed me this photo of him in some silly cycling stuff and a blonde wife in pink shorts, 2 fair girls with big eyes and pointy chins in T-shirts and flowery leggings. Here they are. Grace is 7 and Alice is 5. I didn't say anything. They're your half-sisters. I looked at these strange girls. They didn't really look anything to do with me. This was taken when we were on this crazy camping holiday last year. We all took our bikes and went all over the place, even Alice. I can't ride a bike, I said. I could teach you. Hey, you could maybe come camping with us sometime. Meg won't like that idea. Michael looked me straight in the eyes. Might be a bit difficult at first. Meg knows all about Marigold, but she's always felt worried about her. I suddenly saw Marigold. Lots of marigolds. Marigold painted white like a ghost. Marigold all dressed up and going out on the town. Marigold wincing in pain as she got herself tattooed. Marigold yelling at me. Marigold hiding under the sheets. Marigold making the cake house in the field. All my marigolds. I want Marigold, I said. We'll go and see her, said Michael. I'll tell them that I have to get off work now. I'll take you both back. Don't worry, son. I'll drop you off at your home. I still thought he said the word son wistfully, as he wanted to pop a my in front. He'd have sooner had Oliver than me. I didn't ever come first with anyone. I was always second best. When Michael went off to tell some colleagues he was leaving work early, Oliver gave me a quick hug. He's nice, Dolphin. He really is. He'll look after you. It's going to be all right. It was a good idea of mine to find him, wasn't it? Okay, it was a great idea, I said, and I hugged him back. He was quite a bit smaller than me, so his fluffy hair got up my nose. Your hair's tickling, Oliver. Oliver dodged away, smoothing his hair self-consciously. His fringe was so long now it hung over his glasses. Why don't you get it cut? I know. I keep telling my mum, but she can never get it organised. Why doesn't she cut it? Her hands are so shaky. I'd end up with a fringe all zigzag and my ears snipped off. I'll cut it for you sometime, I offered. I'm good at cutting hair, honest. I picked up a lock of his hair, made professional scissor movements with my fingers. Playing hairdressers, said Michael, coming back into the office. Meg's a hairstylist, Dolphin. Is she? I said it flatly, as if I wasn't the slightest bit interested. There was no point hoping she'd take me along to her salon and show me stuff. Even Michael had agreed there would be problems with Meg. I was sure she'd hate me. It was quite a long drive back. Oliver was in the front with Michael. They chatted away endlessly. They were both computer freaks, and so they went on about the internet and all those different games and systems. I got so bored I huddled up in the back and pretended to be asleep. Dolphin's nodded off, said Oliver after a while. Maybe, said Michael. So great she's found you. It was all my idea. I know it was, Oliver. A very good idea. You are pleased, aren't you? I'm very pleased. Of course I am. Though it's all a bit hard to take in. I mean, I hadn't properly thought about Marigold in a long while. After she left, I did nothing but search for her. But then after a year or so, I knew I had to make a new life for myself or I'd go crazy. I met Meg and we got together and had the girls. Now it turns out I've got 3 girls. Dolphin's a very special girl, said Oliver. You'll like her lots and lots. I do. I felt tears pricking inside my eyelids. Maybe I came first with Oliver. I had to open my eyes when we got back to our town, and Oliver started redirecting Michael to the road where he lived. I didn't want him to go. I felt worried about it being just Michael and me. Bye-bye then, said Oliver, and he got out the car. It was very nice to meet you, Michael. Maybe I could have some swimming lessons too. You bet, son. You sure you'll be all right now, Dolphin? Sure, I said, though I'd never felt less sure about anything. Oh well, I better get going. I'm not sure my mum's going to believe a word of my story, so I'll see you at school, Dolphin. Yep, right. He still dithered, peering at me through the window, and then he waved wildly through the car, though the car wasn't moving. I waggled my fingers back at him and Michael drove off. We'll go to the hospital first. Any idea where it is? Said Michael. I was glad I had to direct him. It meant we didn't have to try to make conversation. I was also getting worried about the trip to the hospital. What's it like? I said. You know, the loony ward. I don't know, but I don't think we should call it that. Will everyone be in those white strappy things like corsets? Straitjackets? No, I'm sure they won't be. It'll probably be like an ordinary hospital ward. Only everyone will be mumbling and staring and doing stupid stuff. I shouldn't think so. But if you're really worried, you don't have to come in. You can stay in the car. Maybe children aren't allowed in the ward in any case. No, I'd better come. I want to see Marigold, I said, though I was sure she wasn't going to want to see me. It took us ages to find the right ward, and then, when we got there at last, a nurse bustled past, frowned at me. I'm not sure about the little girl, she said. We tend to stick to over 14s unless there's a very special reason. Oh, there is a special reason this time. Dolphin's mother was taken into hospital this morning, and she's been very worried about her. She badly needs to see her, said Michael. Ah, we're talking about Marigold, right? The lady with She gestured to her arms and legs as if inking instant tattoos in the air. And then she suddenly smiled at Michael. Hey, you're not the Mickey she keeps going on about. I wish I was, said Michael. I stared at him. Maybe it had been hard for him being second best too. So who are you? Said the nurse. He's my dad, I said. The nurse told us Marigold was in the bed at the end of the ward. She's still feeling a bit groggy because they had to give her quite a going over to get all the paint off. She's still very high too. High, said Michael. She means drunk, I said. No, high, manic, deluded, agitated. But don't worry, she'll respond to the lithium we're giving her. She won't want to take it, I said. We know that's all right. There's been a little battle, said the nurse. But if she keeps on her lithium, she'll soon get used to the side effects and it'll be such a help. Many manic depressives lead perfectly normal lives. My mum's never been normal in her life, I said, and I set off to look for her. Most of the beds were empty. I could see a big room off to the side where people were gathered together in a circle, someone talking, someone else crying. She wasn't there. She didn't seem to be in the ward. And then I thought about the drawn curtains at the end. I put my eye to the crack, and I saw a flash of colour. Marigold! I stepped inside. She was lying on the bed in a strange white nightie. She was no longer white herself. Her skin still had a raw pink scrubbed look in between her tattoos. One of her arms was nearly covered now, a full sleeve. She was inking in all the gaps with a biro. It was the same tattoo over and over again like a wallpaper design. A weird woman cowering, her mouth open wide in an awful scream. Marigold, I whispered. She didn't react. Marigold, I said louder. She went on drawing. She finished one screamer and immediately started on another. I wondered if the paint had done serious damage to her hearing. Look who's here, I said. She looked, her head swivelling round. It was obvious she wanted it who she wanted it to be. When she saw the man behind me wasn't Mickey, she turned back straight away and went on inking. She could hear all right. She just didn't want to hear me or Michael. Hello, Marigold. It's me, Michael. Well, you called me Mickey. I'm Dolphin's father. He said it with a question in his voice. Marigold wasn't prepared to give him an answer. She went on inking. You shouldn't do that. Your skin's sore from scrubbing the paint off. You'll hurt yourself, I said. Marigold stabbed at her skin with a biro point. It looked like that was the whole idea. Maybe she wanted to hurt me too. I was the one who put her in this place she hated most. I'm sorry, I whispered. You had to go into hospital. I didn't know what else to do. Please don't be so cross with me. I felt a hand pressing my shoulder. It's not your fault, Dolphin, said Michael. It's not Marigold's either. She's very sick at the moment. But she'll get better. Do you hear that, Marigold? You'll get better and you'll be able to look after your girls. But until then, I'll keep an eye on Dolphin, so you needn't worry about her. Marigold didn't look as if she was doing any worrying about me whatsoever. Michael gave my shoulder a final squeeze and then bent towards the figure on the bed. I wish you hadn't run away from me, he said, especially when you know yourself how much it hurts. But I'm so glad you kept Dolphin. I know you've got your life, and I've got mine, but we're both her parents, and I hope one day we can be friends. Marigold made an odd little sound. It could have been a snort or a sob. I'll bring Dolphin to see you soon, he said. She's missing you very much. Maybe you'll try to get better quickly for her. It didn't look to me as if Marigold could ever get better. I cried when we came out of the ward. You'll think I blub all the time, and yet I hardly ever cry, I sniffled. I know, said Michael. You've had a really tough day. Anyone would cry. His hands flapped towards me. I wanted a hug, but he ended up giving my shoulders another fierce squeeze. I felt like I was being pegged on a clothesline. Now, what are we going to do with you? He said. And that is where we will leave part 6 of The Illustrated Mum by Jacqueline Wilson. I'll be back soon with the next part of this fantastic story. Lots more stories and videos coming your way very soon. If you'd like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.